Good afternoon, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day. Enjoying life, living life, loving life. That's what we're meant to do. And in order to enjoy life, despite the record that people see about the man you see before you, I am a peaceful man, despite that record. Never had weapons, never had guns. I've always looked for doorknobs to opportunities. And so that's what we're talking about today. Turning all of those weapons and the violence and all the controversy and everything into peace agreements, so that we can open doors and go through them. And so I wanted to talk today about a guy named Garry Davis and a few others. But I mentioned Garry Davis because there's a World Service Organization that he developed, and he did it because he expatriated. And so we're going to talk about it and show you where we're at today in regards to turning those guns into doorknobs. So please pay attention. Help educate yourself and your younger generation. And like I said, we're going to start talking about Garry Davis. And it says, Garry Davis was an international peace activist, best known for renouncing his American citizenship and interrupting the United Nations in 1948 to advocate for world government as a way to end nationalistic wars. Okay? We think about this one world order. This guy was not promoting a one world order. He was promoting world government. In other words, the individual being able to govern themselves based on a republic. His actions gained international attention, including support from intellectuals such as Albert Camus and Albert Einstein, but ridicule from Eleanor Roosevelt. I can't imagine why. Davis, a world federalist, found the nonprofit World Service Authority in 1953 to educate and promote world government. That's why we do these things. We do it to educate, not to profit off of another man. This organization would not be allowed to be in the international forum as a world service authority that is recognized by the world, despite what it's going to say here later on. The World Service Authority issues world government documents such as the World Passport, a fantasy travel document. It cannot be a fantasy travel document. And before we go any further, I'd like to talk about a friend of mine that I have first-hand witness to, specifically in regards to the World Service Authority and a World Passport that was used several times through TSA, and then finally at another point in TSA while going home, they took the World Passport, and through that they had communications with, I believe it was Department of Defense, Homeland Security, and Homeland Security actually kept the World Passport and forwarded a notice of a redress because they could neither admit nor deny. So it cannot possibly be a fantasy document if the Department of Defense of Homeland Security recognizes it but cannot admit nor deny its validity, and then issues a redress number specifically instructing the use of that redress number for all future occurrences. So despite the fact that it was issued and it was used several times and then taken, the authority that took it issued a redress number so that it could be used internally. However, the problem with that is that if this neighbor wants to leave the country, that redress number is an authorization by the U.S. Department of Defense, Homeland Security to do so. That means there is a prior, quote, visa arrangement, and that visa arrangement is the treaties. It already exists. Okay? So comprehend that first. So let's get back into it. Beyond the scope of fantasy documentation, because it is not admitted nor denied by the Homeland Security, therefore they have it in their possession and issued another document based on said supposed fantasy travel document. Okay? Based on an interpretation of Article 13.2 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And this is why. Okay? The World Service Authority issues world government documents based on interpretation of Article 3.2 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So let's take a look at it. Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Preamble. Whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. So when the Department of Defense, Homeland Security took that document and issued a redress number without admitting or denying its validity, they did, however, recognize it. Whereas recognition, and that's why they issued the redress, was because of the inherent dignity and equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace. Okay? So that's just the preamble that I spoke of in regards to recognition. That Homeland Security recognized that document. They kept it. They put it in their records. I guarantee you they did not destroy it. They cannot destroy it. It was documentation issued from somewhere else, and they cannot take property from someone else and destroy it. That would be a military offensive, causing and effecting war. So let's go down to Article 13. Article 13.1 says everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. So we have two things clarified here. Everyone has a right to freedom of movement and residence, stationary. So you have the right, you have the like the First Amendment auditors say, you're free to go. I'm free to go, then I'm free to stay. Okay? So you have the right of going and staying, just like you have the right to go and come back. Psalms 121, the Lord shall preserve thy going out, thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. You also have the ability to stay wherever you stop and decide to stay. The second one, the one they're pointing out, is everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his own country. Again, Psalms 121 verse 8. Okay, so let's go back to Garry Davis. Garry Davis, on the concept of world citizenship, Previously, Davis had worked as a Broadway stage actor and understudy for Danny Kaye, and he served as an American bomber pilot in World War II. Goes on and tells about that brief thing. It says, pained by his own brother's war death and at the death that he caused other families by bombing the city of Brandenburg in World War II, he felt guilty. And he felt the internal sense to repent. And this is why I tell everybody, we've got to come to peace. And the only way to come to peace is repent for our grievous actions ourselves. We are not completely clean. And fearful that nuclear war could terminate humanity, Davis gave up U.S. citizenship. Gave it up. It's a grant. Okay? When you're born, they confer a U.S. nationality upon somebody born in one of the states and recorded as a resident. Okay? A stationary being. And he declared himself a citizen of the world. Okay? Citizen of the world is, I don't like that term like many people. I'm one of the people of the world. He mentioned Henry Martyn Noel, who had renounced a few months earlier, as one of his inspirations. Okay? So let's take a look at Mr. Noel. Henry Martyn Noel Jr. was a former American citizen who moved to Allied-occupied Germany in the aftermath of World War II and voluntarily made himself stateless in order to protest a climax of nationalism that he saw rising around him in the United States. His actions inspired Garry Davis to follow the similar course. Now, as we go on, we're going to read some interesting information about these guys. Noel was born to parents Henry Martyn Noel Sr. and Dorothy Nee Lawson Noel. Henry Noel Sr. was a native of Missouri and served in the 103rd Infantry Division in World War I. He later became a chemical engineer at Standards Oil Bayway Refinery in Elizabeth, New Jersey. In 1922, he married Lawson, a niece of financier Thomas L. Lawson, Boston stock promoter. He is known both for his efforts to promote reforms in stock markets and the fortune he amassed for himself through highly dubious stock transactions. Noel's family was well off, and Noel grew up in a life of privilege. He was raised mostly in Princeton, New Jersey, but as a young boy also spent several years in France. He attended Harvard University to become a lawyer, where he studied philosophy. His major influences included professors such as Alfred North Whitehead and Raphael Damos. However, after the outbreak of World War II, Noel and his friends became increasingly disturbed over what was happening in the world. Noel's unease culminated in his withdrawal from the school in 1943. Unable to enlist in the army due to his poor eyesight, thank God, he joined his friends in the ambulance unit as an ambulance driver and served in Italy and Germany, or India and Italy. Came to Germany in September 1947 after working for American Aid to France, Inc. in Paris in the field. He found work in with a German construction firm at Kassel. He earned a wage of 25 marks per week and lived in a tiny room with no electricity. He subsisted on German rations of 1,500 calories a day. In February 1948, he renounced his U.S. citizenship. By October, he had successfully integrated into his new home and stated he felt accepted by the community there. However, the following month, Noel was arrested by the French army in Neustadt, Baden. Described Noel's actions as a gesture bound to be in vain. Bound to be in vain. Why? This is a gazette. Why do you suppose one man is bound gesture is bound to be in vain, because 99 others will speak up against him and believe that they have authority over him in some way, shape, or form. The only reason. His personal error is in supposing that an individual protest of this nature can be effective. Like I said, individual. One man cannot do this. We have to come together as a group, but in concept, each one of us has to come to the realization individually first before we can come together. So it is not a gesture bound to be in vain. It is a gesture bound in education. And that's why I'm doing this video today, to help educate people that it is not vain. Youthful U.S. citizens with bleeding hearts who renounce family ties. The biblical scriptures that I use tell us that we're supposed to pay no tribute to an earthly father, for there's but one Father which art in heaven, and that if we are to follow Jesus Christ, we must hate our father and we must hate our mother. We must hate our brothers and sisters. We must hate even our own children and our wives. If they refuse to allow us to follow Jesus Christ to our Father which art in heaven, no one should be loved in that. Anyone that denies that should be hated and despised, for they are trying to condemn you under their own terms and conditions and not his. Our way of life, and depart these shores to snuggle up to a gang of brutes. In contrast, the Christian Science Monitor wrote a largely supportive editorial. Garry Davis also. And in these footnotes, you'll find them down here, and you can go, Man Without a Country, the Christian Science Monitor, 1948, 0221, 21st of February, 1948, and it was retrieved 7/10 of 2012. So it's been reposted. Okay. Also described Noel as one of his inspirations for his own renunciation of citizenship and subsequent creation of the World Service Authority. Soon after Noel and Davis' renunciations, Arthur W. Taylor, an African-American from Chicago, also renounced his citizenship at the United States Embassy in Paris, making him the third former American to become stateless that year, in 1 year. How come we don't have people becoming stateless by the millions? This is 1949, folks. It's because somebody adjudicated it as a gesture in vain instead of others posing it as a gesture in education, which is what I'm bringing today. So, as we read on in this, we find out Garry Davis attempts to help Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. In 2012, Davis sent WikiLeaks and founder Julian Assange a world passport. He sent it to him free. Sent another world passport to Edward Snowden. This is a year before he died. Less than a year before he died. And in this somewhere we find it speaking of a Diogenes. Where is it? Where is it? But anyway, I've got the link up here. And we're going to read about this guy. Because there were 3 in 1949. But this guy stated it in this area here, 412 BC to 323 BC. Diogenes, also known as Diogenes the Cynic, was a Greek philosopher. And one of the founders. Notice his philosophers that come upon these concepts, huh? He was born in Sinope of an Ionian colony on the Black Sea coast of Anatolia, Asia Minor, as we know today. Was a controversial figure. He was the son of a mint master and was banished from Sinope for debasement of currency. That's why they pose it to be in vain. Because when you go stateless, it's a debasement of currency. When you go that stateless route, you have no national currency. All you can possibly have is a reserve asset. This is the foundation of every last one of them treaties, folks. Treaty of Berne is a sister document with the Law of Nations, and it's indentured through the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union for the other 560 sub-treaties of the nations that are determined by a national currency. And you debase that because that is the basis of those treaties. You debase it by using the treaty, the ultimate naval treaty. You do not have to be a stated country. You do not have to be a stated nationality. You merely adopt it. Again, read the scriptures about adopting the children of Israel. Well, if you're a stateless being and you adopt all the children of Israel, and some nation claims the children of Israel, who do you suppose has a greater authority? Those who have adopted the children of Israel so they can kidnap them and make merchandise of them, which is a death penalty for kidnapping, or the guy that wants to lead them back to their Father which art in heaven? It's about educating. Hosea 4 verse 6, the generation skipping trust. Because if I have no children to teach myself, I can still adopt the children of Israel and pass that knowledge on, forsaking their own parents, whom they should hate because they didn't pass that knowledge on. So, let's go on to the next one. And I've got a few links up here, as you can see. I hope in the top bar, we've only discussed a couple of them. I'm going to just post a bunch of these links for your further research. And for that purpose, I'm just going to skim through the rest of them and kind of show you what they are. This is from the New York Times. And it's the story I was telling you about that they pulled back up. And this has since been reprinted in 2013 from that other reprint in 2012. And this is the New York Times reprinting it in their verse. We have The World Is My Country, a stunning new film about world citizen Garry Davis, made April 28th, 2021. It just came out a year ago. Okay? Just less than a year ago. A new movie about this guy, Garry Davis. And now the people have the floor. And this is another article talking about when he went to the UN. In Burlington, Vermont, was often called World Citizen N1. The title was not strictly exact, as the organized world citizen movement began in England in 1937 by Hugh J. Schoenfield on his Commonwealth of World Citizens, followed in 1938 by the creation jointly in the USA and England of the World Citizen Association. So, again, the Department of Defense cannot not recognize it, because they, in fact, were part of a recognition of a World Citizen Association themselves prior to this. And again, like I said, Psalms 121 verse 8, they have to recognize it. Without stating citizenship, there is a world pass portage, a right to pass every port in the world. Okay? Now we're going to listen to this for a few minutes. I want people to pay attention. This is a radio show with the guy that made that movie that we just discussed. And he's got some enlightening statements in the first few minutes that I want people to pay attention to, where I got the title to this video. Turning guns into doorknobs. Turning vanity into education. Turning cognitive dissonance into wisdom. Please heed. Please. 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 And I'm going to interrupt here for the sake of fair use notice. We here at the Keith Orland Little Faith-Based Union do not intend to use this anything for any purpose but for fair education around the world.
Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Carolyn Chang, and the mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is teaching us that all life is interconnected and interdependent, that we are all one. And ancient wisdom and spirituality has been teaching us this truth for eons. What you do to another person, you are literally doing to another aspect of yourself. And when mankind awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is The World is My Country with Arthur Kanegis. Arthur is the producer of the wonderful film, The World is My Country. And I met Arthur producing a show for Humanities Team. I work very closely with Humanities Team. I am Steve Farrell's assistant, the worldwide executive director. And that's how I came to meet Arthur. Arthur, welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio.
Well, it's such a thrill to be here because, my whole life mission is awakening to oneness.
Yes.
So it's beautiful to be here because that's exactly what our movie is about. Our movie is really a key tool to help millions of people awake to oneness.
Very, very true. So now, Arthur, like I said, I met you months ago producing a program for Humanities Team, and I've had some conversations with you, and I'm familiar with the film. So I know who you are. And I know what your mission is about. But can you please share with my listeners who you are and what your mission is all about?
When I was 3 years old, I said to my dad, "Daddy, why don't they take all the guns, melt them down, and turn them into doorknobs?"
Very good. Mm-hmm.
And ever since, my life mission actually has been, how do we find a way to open the doors to peace? How do we find a way to open the doors to peace? Now, unfortunately, my mom, who was a wonderful spiritual teacher, passed away when I was 4.5. But she left me her writings, and what she said in one of her little writings is, seek, this was written in 1943, seek not to contest with evil, lest ye be taken by the spirit of contention. Rather, concern yourself with goodness. For in goodness, it's the leavening that makes the whole loaf rise. Now, wait a minute.
That's okay.
I just told you the quote from my dad, not my mom. And the reason why my dad was on my mind, let me tell you why. Today, July 21st, is my dad's birthday. It's also my daughter's birthday.
Wow.
So he's on my mind. So I was going to quote my mom and I quoted my dad. And actually, that's very appropriate. My dad had these little cards printed up in the 1940s. It said, seek not to contest with evil, lest you be taken by the spirit of contention. Rather, concern yourself with goodness, for in goodness is the leavening that makes the whole loaf rise. And that's what my daughter's kind of doing there, working at the American Friends Service Committee in Washington. She's working on this shared security project where you light that fire of oneness, of how we share, how making me more secure can make you more secure. Not how do we kill you to get secure, how do we make you more secure so I'll be more secure. So This is what she's doing, and we have lovely grandkids. You'll actually see my grandkid in the movie, and wonderful part of life. So anyway, getting back to the story, my mother's quote that I was also going to give you is, she wrote, and this was in 1943, I am a conscious individual manifestation of eternal being, endowed with the current and nature of my Father, Mother, God. This guarantees my well-being at all times.
Oh, wow.
I'm a radiant manifestation of light, love, and power. Life is the essence. Love is the nature. And power is what moves me.
Wow.
I want to take a break here because what the man just said is very powerful, if you comprehend it. And the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And you have that power. You have that love. And you have that life. The energy, the source, and the power. Pay attention. So I'm going to go back and finish up with these other sites. Quick review. And like I said, I'm going to drop all these links. This is the movie Through the Eyes of Garry Davis, The World is My Country, with Arthur Kanegis. On YouTube. Both the radio talk here is an hour long, hour and 6 minutes, and this one here is an hour long. And then we have this one here called Stateless. It's a TV miniseries that you can watch, and it's inspired by true events, modern day events. A woman escaping a cult, a refugee fleeing with his family, a father trapped in a dead-end job, and a bureaucrat on the verge of a national scandal find their lives intertwined in an immigration detention center. I urge people to start intertwining your lives now. Start connecting and creating that one world government, one life, one love, one power at a time. Here we have Purpose and Authority of Federal Acquisitions Regulations, Statement of Guiding Principles for the Federal Acquisition System. This is how they gather everything. Purpose, Authority, Issuance. Power, source, energy. The Federal Acquisitions Regulation System is established for the codification and publication of uniform policies and procedures for acquisition by all executive agencies. Federal Acquisitions Regulation System consists of the Federal Acquisitions Regulations, which is the primary document, and agency acquisition regulations that implement or supplement the Federal Acquisitions Regulations. The FAR system does not include internal agency guidance of this type described in 1.301A2. Subject to authorities in paragraph C of this section and other statutory authority, any agency head may issue or authorize the issuance of internal agency guidance at any organizational level. Example, designations, delegations of authority, delegation of power. Who delegates all power? Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. So when they delegate powers, do they need to write them down? Designations, delegations of authority, assignments of responsibilities, workflow procedures, and internal reporting requirements is the documentation. So they have no power. They have no power because they don't come from the right source with love to have power. They don't come from the right energy, the right life, to have the source, the love of the original power. Period. This site was a site that was brought up by my brother Derrick. I haven't checked it out, but I'm going to pass it along simply based on his recommendation. But it's only being passed on in intent to educate, not to use as a process. Again, if it's written down, it does not have the actual source. If it's written down by yourself, it should be written in the proper terms. And therefore, again, it should be extension of Psalms 121 verse 8, which is an extension of Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. That is the original communication, and that communication was one of love, that before thou was cast from the womb, thou was sanctified and ordained a prophet unto the nations. Period. That's my passport. I yield to none because he yields to none. Because the land shall not be sold forever, for it is his. And I am a stranger and sojourner with him. And I shall grant a redemption to the land in all of my possessions. So everywhere I go where I possess the land, I grant an immediate redemption to anybody who might be condemning his lands under those premises. Election of Mr. METOKI Masahiko. And notice it is all capitals here and lowercase here. Okay? Pay attention. That's a script. It's a military script. As Director General of the International Bureau, which is the International Bureau of the Universal Postal Union. And it's a statement by the Foreign Minister MOTEGI Toshimitsu. These are foreign international ministers. They do not administrate. They are ministers in communication. In communication, not by communication. Not by delegation, not by assignment. Not by designation. Here we have the statement by the Director General of the International Bureau of the UPU on the conflict in Ukraine, a current debate in regards to that nationality and immigration statutes and stuff. They shouldn't be doing that to any of those people. They are killing the children of Israel. They're not kidnapping, they're killing them. Director General Derrick of the World Intellectual Property Organization. And again, this is because we don't use those 560 sub-treaties under Her Majesty's Union Customs Codes for taxation, for documentation and registrations. We do it under the Treaty of Berne. Freedom of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union, because the Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and forevermore, because it was written on your heart and doesn't need to be written on paper. Patent Cooperation Treaty, which is Article 55 of the International Bureau. Patent Cooperation Treaty. Administrative tasks concerning the Union shall be performed by the International Bureau. It's throughout the entire territory of the Union. Administrative tasks. Even the administrative tasks of the United States have a patent cooperation treaty with the International Bureau, and they are to be performed by the International Bureau, not by the United States. So those that are being administrated by the United States are for those that are administrated by the United States. I am not administrated. I am a minister myself under Jeremiah 1:5, ordained and sanctified to do so. There is no administration. None. I do not have administration. Period. None. So I hope those that watched today enjoyed. Please share, pass along every bit of information. Again, I'm going to post my PayPal link along with all the others. I hope you share some love with me. I certainly need it. Being monopolized in this operation of necessity, I can't live without it. At this point in time, I'm stuck in this society thing. As soon as I can get out there back to the mountains again someday, hopefully, then. But in the meantime, I'm in the same position as everybody else. Even without a national currency, I'm stuck with using national currencies. Period. So again, I tell people, coin your words and purse your lips. Coin your words or purse your lips. If you don't have something to, like our man said in the video, to, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, then don't say anything at all. That's where it comes from. If you've got something that's going to leaven the bread and make it rise, do it. But if it doesn't have any value in earning your daily bread, because a man does not live by bread alone, then it shouldn't be levied. It should not be levied. So again, thank you again. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless. Have a great day.